What first appears to be a drug overdose soon turns out to be a poisoning case. But not just any poisoning case. The victim was, interestingly enough, poisoned with eye drops. Hello everyone and welcome back to Killer Concepts, the place where we talk about all things true crime. My name is Peyton. I apologize for missing a week, but life happens and it has really been throwing a wrench in my plans lately, but we will get to that later. Before we get started, please make sure to hit that red subscribe button down below and turn on your post notifications so you do not miss any future content. Today we are going to be talking about another poisoning case, which was unsurprisingly committed by a female. We already know that women tend to use poison as a weapon, as we have very recently talked about it in two other pretty recent cases, the Corey Richens case and the one with Ina Thea Knoyer. Unlike these two cases, the defendant isn't in trouble for poisoning her significant other. Instead, she is convicted of poisoning her friend with eye drops, which, like I said, is interesting enough in its own way. With that being said, we are just going to jump right on into the case. So on Tuesday, November 14th, 2023, 39-year-old Jess Kurczewski of Franklin, Wisconsin, was found guilty of the murder of her 62-year-old friend, Lynn Hernan. In 2018, Kurczewski was accused of poisoning Hernan with Visine drops by putting them in a water bottle and stealing almost $300,000 from her. Now, it all started on October 3rd, 2018, when police officers arrived at the home of 62-year-old Hernan in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, after Kurczewski called the police saying her friend wasn't breathing. They would find her dead in her living room recliner. The table next to her was filled with prescription drugs, and what looked like crushed medication was found on her chest. Due to this scene, the crime was initially ruled as a drug overdose. Kurczewski apparently told police that she was a family friend of the victim, she was a caregiver, and her power of attorney. She said there was also a possibility that Hernan was suicidal due to how bad her health was and how restricted to the house that she was. So police would start questioning her about the cause of death, because when they would get her toxicology report back, in her system they found multiple medications, but they also found a substance called tetrahydrozoline, which I'm hoping I'm pronouncing properly. If you use eye drops, this may sound familiar because it is a main ingredient found in the popular brand Visine. USA Today reports that due to these findings, the Waukesha County Medical Examiner ruled Hernan's death a homicide, believing that she had been poisoned. Obviously, this is because eye drops are not something people typically ingest, and definitely not on their own accord. When police brought these findings to the attention of Hernan's close friend and the one who found her dead, Kurczewski would basically try and say that her friend must have staged her own suicide. Interestingly enough, she would also tell police that Hernan would sometimes consume eye drops in her vodka. After multiple interviews, however, Kurczewski would eventually break down and admit to investigators that she had in fact assisted Hernan in poisoning herself. Allegedly, she poured 6 bottles of Visine into a bottle of water and gave it to Hernan to help her commit suicide. Kurczewski would be charged in June of 2021 for the murder. So she would be charged with first-degree intentional homicide and 2 counts of felony theft. The felony theft would be what investigators believe to be the motive for the murder. So Kurczewski had been accused of defrauding Hernan of nearly $300,000 2 years leading up to her death. So it was over a period of time. time. As mentioned previously, she was apparently Hernan's power of attorney, which would give her access to her funds. The trial against Kurczewski was held in November 2023, and the following evidence was laid out. Waukesha County District Attorney Abby Nikolai would mention how the tetrahydrozoline was what killed Hernan. Quote, "The medical examiner told you without hesitation the poisoning in this case was at the hand of another. That's what homicide is." End quote. As well as bringing up the money in the case. Quote, "The drop in Hernan's credit score months before her death, due in part to maxed credit cards. She said a fraudulent loan and multiple checks being made out to Kurczewski for large amounts drained Hernan's bank account," end quote, according to USA Today. They also noted, quote, "Waukesha County Sheriff's Department Detective Nathan Pleans determined the documents Kurczewski provided to authorities to show where the money went were fake, according to Nikolai." End quote. Kurczewski's defense did not have the best argument coming back at the prosecutor. One of her attorneys went as far as to say, quote, "She just liked vodka. She also liked Visine. I have no idea why," end quote. Defense attorney Pablo Galavez said of Hernan during opening statements last month, end quote, per ABC News. Like, what a ridiculous thing to say. Like, when I read this quote, I couldn't even believe it. It sounds so crazy. Like, why would you, it doesn't sound realistic. Like, it sounds like you're just trying to say something real quick and brush it off. It doesn't sound like something that an attorney would want to say. Now, her other attorney, Donna Jean Kuchar, explained away the money that was borrowed or stolen from Hernan by stating, quote, "Lynn gave Jessie money all the time because she wanted to. Giving money to Jessie made her happy. Jessie was like her daughter," end quote. Now, after 2 days of deliberation on November 14th, 2023, Kurczewski was found guilty on all counts, including first-degree intentional homicide and 2 counts of felony theft. Her sentencing hearing is to be on December 7th, 2023, which may or may not be today, depending on when this video gets uploaded and if I'm on time this week. So what's so crazy about this one is that her defense attorneys clearly didn't do a good enough job. They really didn't have anything to come back at the prosecutors with, so it sounds like they just tried to scramble stuff together. Now, there are older people who will give somebody money if they consider them like a daughter, a really close person, but $300,000 within the span of 2 years is a really large sum of money, so I just have a really hard time believing that, and so did the jury, and that's why she was found guilty on all counts. So the prosecutor, Nikolai, would say the following about the case after the verdict. Quote, "The defendant betrayed Lynn out of greed. This case highlighted the financial vulnerability of the victim and what a person would do to get what they want." End quote. So parts of this trial you should be able to find online if you would like to watch it. Jess Kurczewski, 39, can be seen crying when the guilty verdict is read. She still maintains that she was basically just assisting in a suicide, even though all of the evidence pretty much points to homicide, and that's why she was found guilty. Before this case, I had never heard of somebody being poisoned with eye drops. I have heard of a lot of poisoning cases, but this was definitely one of the first ones that had to do with eye drops. But according to ABC, in January of 2020, a South Carolina woman pled guilty of voluntary manslaughter and tampering with food after fatally poisoning her husband with eye drops over the course of 3 days. This woman's name was Lena Sue Clayton, and she was charged with 25 years in prison. This fact blew my mind, and I'm pretty sure that's why in the one article that I used that can be found in my sources, that's why they included it at the bottom of the article, probably because you don't hear of people being poisoned with this substance, really. I had never even thought to try and if I was gonna poison somebody, that is definitely not the first thing I'd think of using. So I know this one was a pretty short case. I wanted to get something to you because my life has been a whirlwind the past couple weeks. We've been shopping for houses, which takes up some time. I go to the gym almost daily. I probably won't tonight because I wanted to get this video to you guys. My horse has been going through bouts of cellulitis, which we have had. This is the third time now in the past couple months, which is a big deal for horses if you know what cellulitis is, because his leg pretty much swells up like an elephant's, and it's an infection that has to be treated pretty aggressively. We have like 3 days of IV shots that he has to get. With that being said, that is all I have for you today. If you have any case suggestions, please send them to killerconceptsvlog@gmail.com. I also always love to hear from you about my videos down below in the comment section. If you have not done so already though, please make sure to hit that red subscribe button down below and turn on your post notifications so you do not miss any future content. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media, which all of my handles can be found below down in the description box. Before you go, just remember that the world's most dangerous minds hide in the most unlikely places. Stay safe.